Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Danion's Gaming Hub. My name is of course Danion, and today I want to talk a little bit about the different builds that are available to the Wizard in Diablo and Reaper of Souls, the expansion. I could throw out a lot of videos about different builds and everything, but I thought, you know what, I'm gonna do it a little bit differently. I'm gonna take the most popular builds as of this current state, and I'm gonna put them in a single video, and I'm gonna compare them running a single rift. So I'm going to show you a melee wizard, I'm going to show you an arcane wizard, and something that I still haven't thought about, but I will get that when I get there. But then you have a general idea of like, hey, I could use this build, or this is something for me. So yeah, let's get through it. I think this is more interesting than just throwing out videos constantly that are like 4 or 5 minutes. I rather have a very strong video that is a couple of minutes longer, but that way you will have a very good understanding of what the build does and how it compares to something as of this current state. Because watching 2 videos at the same time and go like, could I use this or could I use that? In my own opinion, that's very annoying. So let's get things started, shall we? We're gonna start off with the melee wizard. Finally, this screen is starting to rear. Yay, there we go. The melee wizard. It is getting a lot of popularity lately, and I think I know why, because you don't really need gear in order to pull it off. It is very, very strong as of its own. So I'm gonna run this little build as you can see here, and I'm gonna I'm gonna talk about what it actually does. So on my number 1, I'm using Arcane. Arcane does arcane damage. It is my get out of jail free card. It is amazing. It is lovely. It is great. An eruption. I'm doing very well, aren't I? So the first one, Arcane, with the Rune of Arcane Destruction. An explosion erupts around you when you transform, dealing 368% weapon damage as arcane to all enemies. This is your get out of jail free card, and since it does arcane, it gets buffed by everything you have. So every arcane increasement on your gear will increase this damage. It is very, very good. So if you get surrounded by enemies, pop this, you can move away. Strong attacks that almost bring you down. Use this, and that is the beauty of it, your damage, resistance, and armor goes up by 20%. It is very, very strong and is very good for survivability and in order to get away. The benefit from this is each enemy killed while in Arcane form increases your damage by 6% for the remaining duration of Arcane. So just imagine running a rift. You're almost close to summoning the Rift Guardian. It's on like 95%. Pop Arcane, kill everything you see, and do massive damage to the boss when he finally spawns. So I have like 30 or 40% stacks. I was able to kill the Rift Guardian in a couple of seconds because I was fighting little skeletons. They kept summoning and I just kept killing him, and the Rift Guardian just died without anything. Arcane is very, very good. So, your main damage, Spectral Blade, signature spell, free to cast, no arcane power. That is why this build is so ridiculously good, because you don't need gear in order to keep the damage going. Rune, Thrown Blade, extend the reach of Spectral Blade to 20 yards and increase the damage to 231% weapon damage as arcane. That's a lot of damage. Spectral Blade is buffed by attack speed. It is very, very fast. Now, I'm going with the extended one because it increases damage as arcane. We're running arcane. If you have trouble surviving and you really don't want to do this because then this build becomes nullified for some reason, you can use Barrier Blades, which each cast gain a protective shield for 3 seconds that absorbs that amount of damage. In combination of attack speed, this will gain you a lot of survivability. I have to admit that. All the other ones are not very good. Siphoning Blade is very strong in different builds because you get arcane power back, but in this case, it's not so much. So, Thrown Blade. Then you go for Magic Weapon, with the Rune of increase the damage bonus of Magic Weapon to 20% and grants 2% chance to knockback. The knockback is negated. You can completely forget that. But the 20% weapon damage. So the only thing in order to make this build pretty viable is having a very good weapon. The rest, not so much, because the weapon damage is the force weapon is gonna buff your weapon ridiculously. 20% is very, very good. In other builds, you would run, you want to run Conduit because you gain arcane power on every attack you do. Very good. However, if you are fighting a very strong pack and you're like, hey, how can I deal with this? Deflection. When you perform an attack, gain a protective shield for 3 seconds that absorbs that amount of damage. So, in combination with this, in combination with Barrier Blades, those two actually stack. Very, very high survivability. Very strong. That will allow you to do. That will allow you to actually kill everything because you have so much survivability. Very, very strong combo. But Spectral Blade, Throne Blade, and for Magic Weapon, Force Weapon because it increases your damage. For the fourth one, Energy Armor, very strong. I'm running with increases your critical hit chance by 5%. Again, if you have bad gear, this will allow you to push you over that 50% critical hit chance mark, which is very, very powerful. In different builds, you want to run the Energy tab because it gains you Arcane Power, or at least 20 more. However, if you have problems staying alive, again, with the low gear, Prismatic Armor. Energy Armor also increases your resistance to all damage types with 25%. Energy Armor also increases your normal arm by 35%. It is very, very powerful. Don't mind the maximum Arcane Power reducement because you're not going to use Arcane Power anyway. The whole reason people run melee builds is because it is fun, I have to admit that, but you don't need gear. You don't need Arcane Power, you don't need Arcane Power on crit, you don't need Arcane Regeneration. You can take as much damage as possible and still do a ton of damage. It's very easy to play, basically. So it's very cool. And then for the fourth one is a little bit of a mixture for me because I run with Arcane Orb, hurl orb of pure energy that explodes on contact, dealing 380% weapon damage as arcane to all enemies within 15 yards. So that means that it is always floating around you, but you have to recast it. And if you're in a lot of mobs, you will not see them because there is no buff on the screen. So you will want to keep refreshing that quite some time, but it does a lot of damage. I was thinking about running into Obliteration because it does so much damage, but since you're not going for Arcane Power anyway, the problem is you're not gonna have Arcane Power. So you can shoot maybe 4 of them and that's it, and then you have to wait for it to come back. And if you don't have Arcane Regeneration, it takes a long time. So Arcane Orbit is very, very good. And then the last one is a Familiar. And in this one you can do, well, 2 basically. I'm running with Sparkflint. Summon a Familiar that attacks your enemies for 179 weapon damage as arcane. Just keep this in mind. This is already doing arcane damage. Very, very important. Increases all damage you do by 10%. I see a lot of people running with Cannoneer. The Familiar projectiles explode on impact, dealing 240% weapon damage on arcane to all enemies. So you go from 179 to 240. That is a very minor increase. Granted, it is an area of effect. Very strong. However, since you're going to do so much damage, your blades will most likely kill stuff before it even gets to you. So I'm really deciding between these two, Sparkflint or Cannoneer. Let's use Cannoneer for now. You know, why not? But that's the cool thing about a melee build. You can choose differently between everything you have, what you like, how you can play with it. Some people take Black Hole instead of Arcane. Black Hole does, where is it? Enemies hit by Black Hole deal 10% reduced damage for 5 seconds. Very, very strong because, again, you're in melee range. And each enemy hit by Black Hole grants you 3% increased damage for 5 seconds. This stacks up to 10, I believe. It could be more, but I think it's 10. So that will be 30% increased damage and only a cooldown of 7 because this is 12-second cooldown. This lasts for 5 seconds. So effectively, it is only on a 7-second cooldown. Black Hole is very strong, but for me, it is Arcane all the way. Let's take a quick look at the passive skills. Elemental Exposure. Every time you do damage, the enemy will take increased damage from a certain ability. So 5% more from all resources, stacking up to 4 times. And the elemental damage from your weapon actually contributes to that. So in this case, it's Arcane. Very, very strong. It allows you to do more damage. Audacity, you deal 15% additional damage to enemies within 15 yards. You're melee. Done. I mean, that is a given. Unwavering Will. Standing still for 1.5 seconds increases following attributes. Armor, hey. All resistance, hey. Damage, hey. you're melee. You're not moving anyway. Unwavering Will is a given. It's perfect. Glass Cannon can be debatable. Increase all damage done by 15%. For me, this is a given. I mean, there is nothing else I will run with than this. But it does decrease your resistance and armor by 10%. So if you have a hard time surviving, you don't want to run with Glass Cannon. You can either take Blur, which is very cool, or Dominance, because it gives you a shield for every time you kill something, so it increases your survivability. Very, very strong. Or Temporal Flux, enemies that take arcane damage are slow by 80%. Again, this is something that you can really choose between, like, this fits my playstyle, this fits my gear. And I think it's a very interesting playstyle. So I'm gonna show you the video now. I hope you're gonna enjoy it, and after that we're gonna do Arcane Torrent. I'm gonna show you the video after that, and after that something really fun. So hope you enjoyed this video. Alright, I hope that you enjoyed the little video. It was a little bit of an annoying little rift. Although, you do have those, which is unfortunate. I mean, completely voided zones of life, so I had to do a lot of editing there in order to cut that out. I mean, complete streets without any mobs. Ridiculous. Anyway, Arcane Torrent builds now. My personal favorite. I did a very, very thorough video about this already. There is a link on the description. Around here somewhere, I think. Yeah, no, there. I think there's a link there. I hope so. Otherwise, everything will go horribly wrong. And if you want a really in-depth guide, you can check that one. In this one, I did one small modification, and in this little guide, I'm just going to put a stuff you need to know in order to run the build. So, 1, Archon. The same reason as before. Very, very cool. I used to run with Electrocute and the Surge of Power one, so that it would allow me to give Arcane Power back. I switched to Black Hole because the 7-second downtime and the 30% damage increase is very, very good, including boss fights, mob fights, everything. Black Hole is a very, very interesting build. Magic Weapon, I'm using Conduit. I would love to take Force Weapon, but I don't have the Arcane Regeneration for that. Conduit allows me to have a lot more. Very, very nice. That is the reason I go back to, where is it? Electrocute and Forked Lightning most of the times, because Conduit allows me to gain a lot of arcane power very, very quickly instead of Black Hole, which doesn't. So for me, Electrocute or Black Hole is two-sided. Very two-sided. So you can decide what you like. What you like better, basically. In all honesty, I like Electrocute better. Energy armor. Focus your energy is increasing armor by 35%. Pinpoint barrier. Again, same reason. More damage. Very cool. If you need survivability, take prismatic armor. But as you could see in the video, I really don't need more survivability. Arcane Torrent, and this is getting interesting. Enemies hit by Arcane Torrent have a 12.5% chance to fire a new missile at a nearby enemy, dealing 580% weapon damage as Arcane. That's even more. It is ridiculous. It's very, very cool. This is affected by attack speed, so the more attack speed you have, the more chance it has to proc to basically jump to another target. Very, very, very strong if it comes to very big packs. However, on single target, it's meh, because it only has one chance to jump, and 12.5% chance, even with the high attack speed, is not great. In that case, you go for Disruption. Enemies hit by Arcane Torrent become disrupted for 6 seconds, causing them to take 15% additional damage from any attacks that deal arcane damage. So this just does 15% more damage to the enemy. Very, very strong to have. And Familiar, I'm gonna go with... oh, that's still the wrong one. I switch between Spark Flint, summon a Fiery Elemental that grants you 10% increased damage, or Arcanaut. It depends on what I fight. But Arcanaut is most of the times because it gives you 2% arcane regeneration. If you take a look at Arcane Torrent, it costs 16. Put a couple of points from the utility tab into resource cost reduction, and it becomes very, very interesting. So Arcanaut and Conduit allow you to almost continuously do damage with this build. So the main reason for yourself to ask is, do I want to run with Electrocute? Do I have arcane problems? Or do I want to run with Black Hole for more damage? That can be resolved if you go take a look at the passive skills. Because here you could take something away. Elemental Exposure could be removed into Ancestral Presence. Increases your maximum arcane power by 20 and arcane power regeneration by 2. So the question becomes, because this is flat out 10%, 50%. Audacity could be interesting because 15 yards is very small, so you could either take Elemental Exposure or Audacity. But I'm taking Elemental Exposure because it is, even if you have a very strong weapon, it can never reach 15, let alone 10% damage. And this increases your armor and resistance as well. So, and this is 15 damage as well. So Elemental Exposure for me would be the one I would take away. Astral Presence, increase your maximum arcane power by 20 and arcane power regeneration by 2. So in combination with this, in combination with this, in combination with this, you almost don't run out of arcane power when using Arcane Torrent. It almost becomes a melee build just for range. You can just keep on throwing it. There is one other you can try if you have some problems. Blur, but Temporal Flux. Enemies that take arcane damage are slow by 80%. Very, very, very strong. Very good for CC. Very good for survivability. So again, with this build, it is what you like to do in it, and how you want to play. Personally, I like this setup, and I've gotten some comments, I've gotten some messages from people that take Black Hole over Electrocute, and I started trying it, and it's definitely very, very viable. You do a lot of damage, but I find myself running out of arcane power very fast. And if I want to go for maximum damage, or force weapon, and 10% more damage, I could always rely back on Electrocute in order to gain arcane power back very, very quickly. It takes a couple of seconds, and my arcane power is almost full again. So there is a lot of ways you can customize this build as well. And I think it's time for a video in order to clear a rift to see the comparison with melee builds and range build as it comes to arcane. And after that, I'm gonna try something different. I haven't tried it before, so that's gonna be fun. And I'm gonna do a little analysis as to whether I like melee or ranged. So I hope you enjoy this video as well. So the biggest difference between a melee build and a range build is, of course, the addition of flying creatures with Reaper of Souls. As you could have seen, I did 2 rifts and both of them had ranged. I had a lot of trouble on my melee wizard in order to get one elite down because he was floating just away from the actual path, so I couldn't get him. With my Arcane Torrent, that's not a problem. I can hit them no matter what. Second, what is very good to know, Arcane Torrent as well as Spectral Blades will hit through walls. So if you encounter a waller, you will hit through them. Very, very nice. In all honesty, if it comes to very big packs, and rifts are very big packs, my Arcane Torrent with Cascade beats melee anytime. You just saw, it almost feels as if I one-hit certain mobs because it just flats out, murders everything. In terms of fun, I would say that the melee wizard wins. It really, really is fun to actually run in and hit stuff and just keep on smashing. It almost feels like a completely different character because you've always been using ranged weapons all the time, and yeah, it feels different, and I like it. I really like melee wizards. So if you have low gear, go for melee. If you have better gear, go for Arcane Torrent. That is basically the gist of it. Anyway, guys, thank you for watching. I hope you didn't find it too long, and I hope you find the little ending piece that I created a little bit funny. At least I find it funny. So I hope you got something from this. I hope I gave you some good information. And as always, keep on winning, and we'll see you next time.
And now, for something completely different. Oh, you want to throw meteors? You want to throw meteors? I can throw meteors too. Here, meteors. All meteors in your face. So many meteors. That's how we do. Yeah, your meteor or my meteor. I'm pretty sure my meteor wins. Mm-hmm. Want to have more meteors? Here, more meteors. There we go. Meteor rain, meteor destruction. That's how we do. Meteor for the win. Oh. You want to have meteors? You want to have meteors? Sure. Here, have meteors. All the meteors. There we go. That's how we do. And some lightning. Meteors and lightning. A lot of lightning, basically. Oh, you want meteor too? Oh, meteor. Meteor. Yay, meteor. So many meteor. Ooh, pool. Meteor and pool. I need a big pack. Come on, big pack. Why you no give big pack? Big pack. Oh, an elite. Elite and meteor. Fire. Fire and brimstone. Monsters. I think I'm gonna die. No, I'm not. Oh, very close. Very close. Yep. Fire builds. Arcane and fire builds. I know, this has nothing to do with the previous 2 videos. I know, but it's fun. I just wanted to do this.